Hi there. In this video, I have a couple word problems that I'm going to show you how to take those word problems, turn them into an inequality, and then we can use the inequality to answer questions about those word problems. So my first word problem here says, my girls have $1,000 to spend at the American Girl store. Dolls are $100 and outfits are $25. So I want to take that information and turn it into an inequality. Now, I always look at this and go, there's really another step in here of, let's identify the variables. So I look at this and go, well, we're talking about dolls and we're talking about outfits. Yes, we know how much they cost, but we don't know how many dolls or how many outfits are purchased or could be purchased. So those are going to be my variables. I'm going to use D is going to represent the number of dolls. And then I'm going to use, I would like to use the letter O, but O's look like zeros. So I'm going to change it to, we'll go with U, the second letter, and therefore the number of outfits. So if I go into this store, I can buy dolls, I can buy outfits. They're going to cost $100 and $25. I'm going to have to add those two quantities together, and then my bill has to be $1,000 or less. So how much would it cost if I go in and buy D dolls? Well, that would be, I'd have to take 100, multiply it by my number of dolls, which would be D. So that piece right there would give me the total amount for the dolls that I purchased. Then I'm going to look at, well, how much would it cost when I buy my outfits? Well, it's going to cost $25 per outfit, so if I take 25 times U, just that little piece is going to tell me how much the dolls or the outfits cost altogether. So I'm going to have to add those two quantities together. Now that's going to be my total bill. Well, my total bill cannot go over $1,000, so I'm going to put 1,000 right here. And the 1,000 has to be the greater of the two numbers because I only have $1,000. So this plus this has to be less than the $1,000. So I have an inequality right here that's going to represent that word problem. Now what I want to do is I want to graph that. Well, in order for me to graph this situation, I like to have it into slope-intercept form, which normally would have an x and a y in it. But in this case, I used D and U. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say the D is going to act like my y. Therefore, I'm going to have a d-axis, and then since that's the d-axis, this one over here is going to be the u-axis, which then means I have to solve that inequality up here for the letter D. All right, so I need to get the 25u to the other side. So I'm going to subtract the 25u from both sides. And now I would have negative 25u. Oops, I almost forgot the 1,000. Plus 1,000 is greater than or equal to 100d. And now I have to divide both sides by 100. And I have d is less than or equal to negative, that'll be negative 1/4 u plus 10. There we go. So being I have those kind of numbers, I can just have each one of these intervals going up my d-axis be 1. So if I go through, I'm going to just label every second one. So we have 2, 4, 6. Did I do that right? Yep. And 10. And then I should be able to do the same thing down here. So this is going to be 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. There we go. Now, to graph it. So my y-intercept, I notice, is right there. So I'm going to go up to 10. And my slope is right here, negative 1/4. So I'm going to go down 1 and right 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Down 1, right 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And now I just need to graph that line. Get my straight edge out, connect the dots. I'm going to put arrows on that. And then I also look at it and notice that it has the greater than or equal to, so it does need to remain solid. And I have it there. Now, I need to figure out, though, which side of that line to graph. So this is where I now need to test a point. I'm going to have to come down here a little bit. I ran out of room there. So if I test a point, I'm going to test my point 0, 0. So I'm going to plug that into my inequality to figure out if it makes it true or false. So if I take the negative 1/4 times 0 plus 10, now how does it compare to 0? Well, this side we have 0 plus 10, so left side's 10, right side is 0. That is a true statement. Therefore, when I come back up here, I would have shaded, or I should shade, this entire side of my inequality. Now, the other part to remember about this is, since we're dealing with items to purchase, we can't purchase a negative. So really, I would look at this, and I'm going to kind of tweak this a little bit because I don't think it would make sense to go out there for the problem that we're working on. The inequality graph would have been fine there, but for our situation, we can't buy negative numbers of dolls or outfits. So anything in that shaded region would be a possibility for the number of dolls and the number of outfits to purchase. Which then brings me to this question: if 10 outfits are purchased, what is the maximum number of dolls that can be purchased? So I'll come down here and I'll go, well, 10 outfits, that's over here, right there at 10. So now we want to know what's the maximum number of dolls that we could purchase. So I would look at this, and I'm going to follow this 10 outfits. Anywhere along here is the number of dolls that we could then purchase. Now, since dolls are integer values, you can't buy 1.3 dolls. We could buy 1 doll. Right here would be 2 dolls, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, based off of our line, we could buy more dolls, but that's part of a doll, so we can't do that. So the most dolls that we could purchase would be 7 dolls. And that would answer the question here. Now, there's lots of other questions that could be asked, but that's the one that it asked based off of this. But I just want to come back here and look at all of these different possibilities that you could purchase. You know, if I pick that one point right there, that's telling us that we could buy 4 outfits and 4 dolls. It would cost less than $1,000. We'd have extra money left over, but it would work. Any one of those points in that solution set satisfy going into the store with $1,000, and what can we come out with? Now I have another one here that says Lee Cooper writes and edits short articles for a local newspaper. It generally takes her an hour to write an article and about a half hour to edit an article. If Lee works up to 8 hours a day, how many articles can she write and edit in one day? So again, I want to write an inequality for this situation, but to do that, I'm going to need to identify those variables first. So I look up here and go, well, it tells me that she can write an article, or it tells us that she writes articles and she edits articles, but it doesn't tell me how many that she does. So I look at that and go, those are my variables. So I'm going to look at calling W, I'm going to call that the number of articles she writes. And then we're going to go with E, it's going to equal the number of articles she edits. And now we can start looking at the inequality that we can write. All right, so it takes her, let's say, an hour, right here, hour to write and half hour to edit. So that's going to tell me that if I take 1 hour and multiply it by the number of articles she writes, that'll tell me the total number of hours it takes her to write those. So I'm going to put that 1 in there, even though we don't really need it. So 1 hour times the number of articles she writes. That'll give me the total number of hours in her writing time. And then we also have a half hour to edit. So if I take a half hour and multiply it by the number of articles she edits, that'll give me the total number of hours editing. Well, now we would need to add these two together to get her total time spent writing and editing. And we know that she has 8 hours in her day. So those two added together is going to have to compare to 8. Well, the 8 has to be the greater. Oops, I wanted that to be a different color. Or equal to, because if she works 8 hours, she could spend the entire 8 hours working on writing and editing. So there's my inequality. Now, if I want to graph it, again, I'm going to have to, or I don't have to, but I think it's helpful to have it into slope-intercept form. And in this one, I'm gonna let W be my y-axis. So I'm going to put a W here, which then means E has to be along my x-axis. And that means I'm going to have to solve that inequality for W, which means I just have to subtract 1/2 E from both sides. And now I have negative 1/2 E plus 8 is greater than or equal to W. So now, identify my y-intercept. That's right here. And these numbers make it look like I can go up by ones again, so I'm going to do that again. So we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. This will be the same thing. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. There we go. All right, now back to my y-intercept, which is 8. That'll be here. And then I have a slope of negative 1/2. So I'm going to go down 1, right 2, down 1, right 2, down 1, right 2, down 1, right 2, and down 1, right 2. And now I'm going to take my line, put that in there, like that. Put my arrows on it. Again, we have the equals to part, so it needs to remain solid. We'll make it blue this time. And now I need to figure out, do I need to shade above or do I need to shade below that? So again, I'm going to pick easy point of 0, 0. I'm going to plug it in here. So, oops. Try this again. Negative 1/2. My E value is 0. Plus 8. How does it compare to and then 0? So here I have 0 plus 8. That's going to put me at 8. It's greater than or equal to 0. That is true. Therefore, I have to shade on the bottom again. And again, I'm going to look at this in terms of the context of the problem. Could we work negative, or could she write negative articles? No. Could she edit negative articles? No. So then my inequality for this has to stay in this first quadrant. And all of these are possibilities for the number of articles that she could write and the number of articles that she could edit. Now this question just asks, how many articles can she write and edit in one day? Well, there's lots of answers in here. I can come up here and I can go, well, I could pick this one right here. That point is 1, 1, which means she could write 1 article and she could edit 1 article. I could pick this point right here. That point is at, maybe I should have wrote these down. That point is at 4 for E, so she could edit 4, and it's at 5 for write, so she could write 4 and edit 5. So lots and lots of possibilities. It's just a matter of picking one, I guess, for this, since that's the question. So I'm going to pick that one that was at 4. I'm going to write, so I would answer this by saying she can edit 4 articles. I'm struggling to spell the word articles. I apologize. Let's try that. There we go. She could edit 4 articles and write 5 articles. And that's going to conclude my lesson on writing inequality word problems.